So I hooked up a solenoid off of a starter.
Mhm.
So I mounted it. So now I got electric dump. I had that set up for probably about a year and a half. Then I went all the way around and changed it. So on that end of things, you can say that either I was the first or the second Mexican in San Diego to have hydraulics.
Today's special guest is Raul. He's going to introduce himself. We're going to talk about the wonderful world, the cultural world of San Diego when it comes to lowriding. All the histories, we're going to go all the way back to the 70s, maybe even late 60s here. And go ahead, Raul, just introduce yourself to the fan base and let's get this story going.
My name is Raul Paniagua. I started lowriding back in '70 in San Diego, but it goes back further than that because my family here in LA had already been lowriding. They were from Lincoln Heights, and so it really intrigued me. One night we were up here, went to after a school dance with visiting my cousins, went to Whittier for the first time and saw the Imperials. They were all parked along the side. I'd never seen anything like that. So that was my quest to figure out why are those cars on the ground, and I had to know, and I found out. I went and did a lot of research. Coming back, visiting, and going to seeing people that their cars were lowriders on the ground, and they were really 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 cool. So I started learning. I got a '67 Impala in 1970, and a little while after, I had already lowered it, but a little while after, a friend of mine, Negleto, we were going downtown. He had a '64, and we were going downtown. We were going across or by Lincoln High School, and there's this guy in the corner, calling us over, and he's saying, "Hey, SA, come over, you." So we go over there, and he's selling a setup for $100 and two batteries. So that setup had an Adele. You ever heard of a pipe dump?
Yeah,
Okay.
but setups actually went for 100, 150. That was a good deal back then.
Well, back then,
Yeah,
we're talking about 1970.
yeah.
So anyway, so two used batteries, an Adele, which I wish I still had.
Mhm.
But and so he told Negleto, he said, give me $100 and I'll see you on Saturday, and I'll help you install it. Sure enough, the dude was there on Saturday early morning. Neighbor across the street had a torch, cut him out, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Anegleto's going up and down. So the dude took off, got his money, took off. Then I told Anegleto, I said, let's go hit Logan, go by the park. Well, back then it wasn't a park, but it was just go to Logan 'cause that's where Brown Image was and everybody. They said, no, 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 no. So that went on for a week. He wouldn't move the car. So that following Saturday, I told Negleto, sell me the setup. He sold me the setup. I pulled it out. The car never got out of the driveway. Technically speaking, he was the first Mexican in San Diego to have hydraulics.
What, he just got scared of the whole thing? Is it,
Yeah, I don't know. He
how it's
just
going to ride or?
yeah, he just tripped. So yeah, I pulled him out, took it home. I went to Goodrich on Main, which was right on the other side of the park, which is
Mhm.
park now. And I bought some cylinders, some aircraft cylinders. Took them home. You had to cut them up, because they were all casting and everything, so you can get a donut on it. Did that, and then the pipe dump. I didn't like it, but that's what I had. So I hooked up a solenoid off of a starter.
Mhm.
So I mounted it. So now I got electric dump. I had that set up for probably about a year and a half. Then I went all the way around and changed it. So on that end of things, you can say that either I was the first or the second Mexican in San Diego to have hydraulics.
When you were purchasing components or parts to do hydraulics, you had a shop down there in San Diego that,
Now,
so where did you get all your
I
stuff at?
Pally's.
Oh, you had to come back to LA to do
So I
that.
came back. A guy after I, had been about 6 months. I had already gotten into Brown Image, but car club Brown Image. But I got hit up. A dude with a 57, clean 57, came from San Isidro.
Mhm.
How he heard about it, I don't know, and he wanted to get lifted. So we worked out a deal, and I came up on the Greyhound and went back with 2 Pescos and 2 square dumps from Pelly's. So seriously, that's true. So anyway, so I lifted it. I started lifting him. I got ripped off. They sold the Pescos out of the garage. So I took out my setup and put it in the 57. So then from there, a really good friend, which I'm not sure he was the president of Chicano Brothers, Latin Lowriders, excuse me. His name is Philip Gomez
Mhm.
Peabody. Had a 72 Monte Carlo, brand new. And I lifted him in the back, lifted a couple other Impalas, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
When you lifted your own car, and I know your partner was a little bit scared of it, what did I do to my car? I mean, you take a lot of us back to the first day when we got our hydraulics and we had to learn on the fly with the trunk open, welding, torches, everybody running back and forth. And you're thinking, God, I just wrecked my car. They're cutting up my springs and everything. So you don't know exactly what it's going to be like until they leave. And then you start the car up and then you try to remember, yeah, you hit the switch and the car
Yeah.
comes up and God, should I put it out there on the street? If your friend was a little bit paranoid, so to speak, how was it for you knowing that you did your own work? How was it for you, your experience to hit the streets and go out there and then start moving that suspension with a switch?
I honestly had no problem with it. I wanted to show it off. I wanted to go and show, because I hadn't seen anything in San
You thought
Diego.
nothing was going to break hitting a switch?
I
No.
fearless. I just turned up the stereo seriously, and I had put a plate all the way across the gas tank, across the gas. So when it laid, I could scrape the plate. So I wanted to show that off. So no, I didn't have any problem with going out and showing it.
Seeing the Imperials and all their cars on Whittier Boulevard slammed on the floor had a huge influence on you, huh?
Oh man,
To put a plate on your gas tank.
yeah. The thing about the Imperials is just like LA, of course, is the Mecca. That's everything comes from LA. So once I got into lowriding, I knew that everything was here. You got brand new cars with paper plates, going out and already lifted and all that. I wasn't gonna try to compete with that, but that influenced everything in me to do what I kept on doing. Um, Lowriding, as far as I'm concerned, uh, in the terms of hydraulics, it became because my cousins were lowriders here in LA, but they didn't have hydraulics, but they were lowriding back in the early 60s. I didn't even think about it. I mean, it didn't even, what I saw didn't, it was all about hot rodding back then. But when I saw the Imperials, when I went and saw more of the lowriding in LA, that really, that's what I wanted to do. So that in itself became, low or hot rodding was no longer. I got rid of my 56 Chevy.
Yeah, I mean, hot riding and low riding it's an opposite end of the world.
Exactly. Exactly.
Totally against performance, racing,
Yeah.
all of that. Tires, wheels.
Yeah, yeah. I had big old 12-inch indies in the back of my 56. That all went away. In fact, I got rid of the car.
So your early beginnings, and I want to get into Chicano Park before it was Chicano Park. What was it? Just a piece of land out there? Were there
Logan.
homes on there and everything?
Well, yeah, oh yeah. Logan back then before the bridge, it was mostly industrial. I mean, there was homes, sporadic, here
Hmm.
and there, but there was a lot of junkyards. There's a lot of industry. You had the cannery, on the other side.
Hmm.
The only way to get to Coronado was on the ferry. So, but yeah, that all, later on in years, because my dad used to do side jobs. So we were always going to the junkyards over there in Logan. That's where all the junkyards were. So, but later on, yeah, when they started developing the bridge, came in right underneath the bridge, as you come in, from Logan was, the pillars. And so under the pillars, there was in between what it is today, the park, there's two parking spaces, one on each end of what is known now as the park. That used to be a street. It used to go all the way across. Mostly was dirt, and then later on they put grass in there. But that was years later. By the time we were low riding, or I was low riding, that already started to develop. So, but yeah, Logan became, where the citizens, started to uprise and get rid of the junkyards.
Hmm.
So the industries are still there a little bit, but no more junkyards. They cleaned all that out.
So little by little, gradually, we're going to go back. If you're talking, this is all in the early 70s, right?
Yeah, when the last that I remember, I mean, from the times that we were going down there to buy parts and stuff like that, that's like, um, mid to late 60s.
Oh, so we're talking 60 years of Chicano Park.
Oh yeah,
So we can go way back,
oh yeah,
even before the murals all started
oh
taking
yeah.
over and it became not just a park, a festival, a cultural
Oh,
festival is what it
exactly,
is. It's
exactly.
beautiful. The weather, you got the whole atmosphere. It's a world. I've always thought San Diego is a world of low riding by itself, doesn't need anybody from the outskirts. It protects itself. And it's its own planet, if you want to say.
Yeah, pretty much. The culture is very heavy there, because that's what brought it about. The culture, the fame of Chicano Park. So, yeah, we're in a sense we're all part of it because, um, Brown Image, when I was, that started right there in Logan. It was, it became, at that time, before I left, there was like 35 members in there or something like that. So it was big. It was like what you or Imperials, sort of kind of, sort of speak, became for, people, other clubs wanting to be like. So, but that's like I said, going back, Latin lowriders was they were older, because they had been around, a few years, before us, but, they were they were older. They were they had newer cars. Some of them had newer cars than we did, um, but, we got along with them real good. We never.
You didn't have any problems with other car clubs in the early
Well, see,
beginnings?
back then, that was just us. It was just the two car clubs.
Is there early beginnings
Yep, there
of
was
low
all
riding for San
Dukes,
Diego?
Dukes, but they were mostly from. There was a couple of Dukes over here, but they were from TJ. They were all cool. They didn't have any problems with them. None. Um, the development of San Diego and car clubs, as far as the growth, it probably, I would say, when I left, in fact, my brother, a good friend of ours, Jesse Lopez, call him Bird. He moved from down in the neighborhood. He moved up here, and, I guess he got into new wave,
Hmm.
and so he came down and he talked to my brother Joe and Albert and, Rolando, and that's how the chapter in San Diego started. When that was, I want to say maybe like 74 ish in there. And that's how New Wave started down there.
So San Diego, besides the ocean and the naval warships that are out there, and no more than 78-degree weather,
Yeah.
Pacific Beach, all of that down there. It's just, I won't mention their baseball team, but you have National City that's really just not too far from San Diego, and then there's the Mexican border.
Yeah.
So looking at the whole culture before you could even get close to coming up to LA to see what they or we were about, what was the culture like south of the border. Did you ever
Yeah,
see any lowriders coming from up that way, or
yeah.
did you ever visit Mexico
Of
from trying
course,
to
I
go
have
to TJ?
family down there. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I had a my '67, or well, my '67. I never took down there. I also had a '71 Riviera.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I cut the bumper.
Baddest car ever. You cut the
Huh?
bumper too?
Ah, yeah. Who doesn't cut the bumper on a
Yeah, I know.
71
I know.
Riviera? It's just like having a Lincoln.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I had went down there. I had my 40 Chevy lifted in the front. I took it down there. It was pretty cool because people trip on that. Here hydraulics were already, basically established. Not so much down there. There was a few cars. Not.
If I want to go back to East LA back in those times, there was Bob and Sons. There were a few good upholsterers out that way in the early and middle 70s. Half the lowriders went to TJ to get their interiors
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Half of the lowriders would take a ride down there,
yeah,
hang out for about 6 to 8 hours, come back, their car was done, or they'd sleep in their car overnight and
yeah,
drive back in the morning.
yeah,
Lots of cars got their upholstery
yeah.
done there.
Velvet,
Yeah.
crushed velvet.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Pretty badass too.
yeah. I remember that. I had a friend that upholsterer, Gene Garcia, Eugene Garcia. He came from down there. He was upholstering over here. Yeah, all crushed velvet stuff. Everything, everything.
The culture of San Diego. So now there's a lot of car clubs. There's a lot of
Oh yeah,
chapters that also
yeah.
moved in to San Diego. Now it's a way different picture from the 64 with leg pipes, show pipes,
Exactly.
bunny ears.
Right.
Now you see the 64 rag with an LS motor in it
Yep.
laying out there by the park. I mean, it's completely changed so much, but then again, it really hasn't.
It that was the thing. That's what I showed you.
Mhm.
That was my thing. My thing is is repetitive. Seeing what I saw. Um, and when I was trying to get people like that Riviera in the '58, the other Riviera that I'd done, trying to get people to do that, it wasn't happening. So it for me it became kind of boring, to do the same thing over and over again. But by that time, like you're saying, clubs from up here were already starting to show up down there, or chapters. More clubs were growing, and the quality of what San Diego now, or in a few years back, has now has today.
Mhm.
It's very strong. It's very strong. You got a lot of high quality cars down there.
We're talking about some of the cars that you customize, so you custom paint just as well
Hmm.
as you do hydraulics. There's some iconic cars from San Diego
Yeah.
if you want to really go back, and there's some very there were and there are now great painters
Oh yeah.
with a lot of talent.
Yeah. Yeah. The Riviera, that was like a brainchild of mine, and a friend that he's long gone, Dennis Johnson. We got together and painted it. Did a silver flake base. Back then, it was all lacquer. Everything was lacquer. So did a silver base, and then did a three candy, red candy. It was Matador red, fire engine red, and brick red. And then in the center panel on the bottom, we reversed it and then shot pearl over it. Then he had uh, the idea that we could do grapes, like a thing of grapes. So we did grapes along the top pattern on the side of the car. I did ribbons. Back then. Ribbons were a big deal. I did ribbons on it. They came out really nice. It it went up against that I know of. We put it in the RG Canning car show in San Diego. It came in second. Then Oscar Arribas, the owner, he put it back in another car show, and he said that it went up against Gypsy Rose
Mhm.
and came in second place again. So, but you got to remember back then, RG Canning was what, maybe two or three lowriders, if
Yeah,
so.
the early days, yes.
Yeah,
If we were lucky,
if we were lucky.
that was the biggest thing you can ever. If you got accepted into one of their shows, who were the iconic cars out there that way? I know Wade's Riviera was one of them. That was a badass Rivy.
Wade's Riviera. There's probably, I don't know which Riviera exactly you're talking about. If is he talking about?
The blue and the crazy one, suicide doors, everything.
Oh, okay. See, there's one other one that I
It was
did.
full custom.
Yeah, the other one that I did was another 64.
Hmm.
I did that for a good friend Chuco. He was in Latin Lowriders. He's passed on. Um, did that. We put running boards on the side. If that one, yeah,
Yeah, this one had he had everything. It was fully
that
custom.
that's the one that I did. I did that and the lights and then later on, Wade bought it and
Mm.
I think he did some to it and also, but originally I had done that
You're
car.
the one that had done that.
Yeah,
How do you see customizing then and now? You hardly see anybody chop a top now.
no,
Well, it was easier to chop a top back then on certain cars.
oh yeah,
But I just mentioned right now, not too long ago, anybody can chop a top, but do your windows work like factory? Do the windows still go up? And if you have a curved window, how do you make that?
yeah,
They come tempered,
yeah,
and you got to have somebody make you that glass, or you go acrylic if you can.
yeah. I before I this is like about 10 years, 8 years ago, I called
Yeah,
Coto's Glass.
yeah, he makes the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And believe it or not,
he's not
there's
that expensive to do what he does. Yeah.
that's I mean, he quoted me. He was really cool. He explained the whole process. And another guy, an engineer from Detroit that I
Hmm.
got a hold of, they do glass for production glass. And the dude was really, 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 really I mean, I'm talking about we had about a 45-minute conversation as to the process, and I'm describing everything I needed. And and he told me, he says, we don't do that. But at the end of before the end of the conversation, he says, you know what? If you want to do that, he said, you would have to come out here and bring me some samples of what you want. And he said, and I'll run them for you.
Hmm.
But you're talking, at that time, he told me, he says, you're probably looking at about $5,000 per window.
Yeah.
So Kotos, then I found out about Kotos because, I mean, I was dog bound on finding out where in the hell people are getting their windows. But who in lowriding was chopping the roofs and getting windows? So who are you going to ask?
And that's probably some of the reasons. If you do want to put your windows back in, it's like cutting off your Hollywood top and it rains or whatever. You
Yeah,
need to put that roof back on. But to actually put glass on a car, oh,
yeah.
wow. Now what are you going to do?
So Kotos, this is now, I talked to him
He's
and
been doing it for quite a while too, right?
who? Kotos?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kotos, he was like, again, he went through the whole process. He wanted to wait until somebody else needed a car
Hmm.
windows because they fire up their oven and so on and so on.
Right.
So anyway, so he tells me, he says, look, he says, the best I can do for you is 18,000 for four windows. And I thought, well, there goes my budget. So,
Right.
so it didn't happen. So then I called back, and now the
But if
son,
you're doing the chop top yourself, a chop top can cost you 5 to 6,500 today. And they just leave it raw and
yeah,
walk away.
right,
But you're saving that kind of money when you do it
yeah.
yourself.
When I mean doing the top, you're gonna lay down the back window. You're not gonna cut it. You're gonna lay it down, or you're
Cut
gonna,
out the gutter or the window, remove it,
yeah,
and then when all's said
yeah,
and done, you put that thing back in there.
exactly.
Yep.
So, but what I'm going with like the late models with no chrome.
Yeah.
So you got to shorten everything. You got to size everything. But anyhow, so talking to Kotos again this last time, he tells me, he says, the son says one thing that you could do. He says, if you can find a windshield that has the same contour as your side windows, you might be able to get it cut out of there. Have you ever seen a 67, 68 back window? What it's shaped like?
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. Doing the door windows, that's probably as big because they're so long, especially when you get rid of the wing window. So I have found something that looks pretty identical that will fit and you can cut the windows out of a windshield.
Hmm.
So that's the direction I'm going to go in. I gotta have windows. If
Well, you got to finish the job.
exactly.
It's easy to cut and weld.
Right.
But you got to finish the whole complete job all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do suicide doors too?
That's going to be the next thing. But see, doing suicide doors, then the back windows are not going to work
Hmm.
because of, doing the hinge.
Yeah, everything goes to the back.
Yeah. But that's fine. If you can keep that window, if you can bring that window quarter way down, halfway down or whatever, and then bring it back up, that's good enough.
See, but we're talking about not enough lowriders do customization. You don't have to get so deeply involved in we cut up a car and now what are you going to do? And the situation with all the shops today, whether it's upholstery, paint, you could be in there for years and then have to just go and tow it out and lose all your money.
Sure.
So you don't see too much customization at all because of that. I mean, that's a big risk, but it's almost like hydraulics in the early days, man. You just went and cut up your whole car. First of all, does it look good? And then where is your motivation from here when it looks all Frankenstein with the welds and everything, right? So you don't see that too much. I'd like to see it a little bit more to reinvent the lowrider because we're trapped in years
Exactly.
and makes and models, right? But shaving and all that stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. You showed me a Riviera as the picture that you showed me as a wild paint job on that. It looked really nice. And that was going way back into you said in the 70s,
Yeah.
right? That's pretty badass. You have a lot of great painters out there and builders just as well.
Yeah.
Sal Manzano,
Mm-hmm.
he's right out of TJ.
Yeah.
Benny,
Yeah.
Benny's a
Benny.
Benny's a badass.
Yeah.
He's supposed to come up on the show. The young guns, you got Mercado out there
Mercado.
now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of deep, rich history, not just car builders and painters, and there's some upholsterers down there that they'll take a deposit of $20,000, and they're the best in the world.
Oh yeah, yeah. My brother Joe, he's got a nice 79 Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
He had a poster, and it's funny because um, we were talking, and he thought, you know what, for what they're like, what you just mentioned, $20,000 for a good, quality leather job. He wasn't going to do that. So I don't remember. He took us a chair down to have it postered. So
Mhm.
he asked the guy. He says, can you upholster a car? He says, well, I've done them. It didn't say, yeah, I do them. He said, I've done them. So he asked the upholsterer, he says, how much would you charge me to do my Lincoln? And he described what he wanted. It's not a high end, but for $7,000, it's a very, very nice upholstery job, all leather.
And this is lately?
This is this year.
Wow. That's unheard of.
And so
You can't ask any upholsterer right now how much. When they tell you how much, it's like you can't ask them, but why?
Yeah.
Because from 1 to 10, there's upholsterers out there that are fives, and there's some that are tens. So you understand the quote you're going to get before you get there.
Yeah.
But others, you just don't. God,
Yeah.
you're like a 7. Why are you asking this much? And they'll tell you because that's what they're paying.
Yeah.
I don't know where the money comes from
I know.
today, but
That's right.
it's crazy.
That's right. Yeah, he's very satisfied. I like I said, it's not like a high-end 10, level 10,
Hmm.
but it's definitely a 7. And for $7,000, it's so there's upholsterers out there that probably can hit a reasonable number in quality and doesn't have the name and probably could do it for, like my brother had it done.
You mentioned the Chicano Brothers were a car club in the beginning, right? Chicano Brothers.
Chicano Brothers.
A lot of activists, even in the early days.
Yeah.
The Chicano Power, the whole thing. Some of the old car clubs that started, they all still to that day, and in those times, everybody still gets along together.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. I've been to Chicano Park a few times. There were a couple of times when I first started with Lowrider, and I went down there with one of the photographers, and we got hit up, and there were a couple people out there weren't happy that Lowrider was there because it hadn't been there in quite a while.
Yeah.
And it was disrespectful. And then all of a sudden we show up and we weren't really welcomed by a few. So we went back again the next year and did coverage again, and then we were more accepted. Chicano Park has always been territorial, and it should be.
Mm-hmm.
like any other park or cruising spot, hey, they don't really like you if it going into Hollywood Boulevard, if you're from Van Nuys and your boulevard over there, everybody's always going to be territorial, and things do happen sometimes.
Yeah.
You think that today, now, low riding, from what you saw today, it's more family oriented, that people will accept, just like if we went to Espanola or we went to El Paso, anybody with a California license plate is more than welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, the city's yours, right?
Yeah.
There's some strict values there in Chicano Park still to this day.
Well, let me, when we started, it wasn't like that. What was territorial was more like south of that, like the other cities, if you want to mention those, but the other towns, that was very territorial, more so than Logan. Today, in the car culture, it's neutral that I know of. It's neutral. It's just what we're talking about.
I just got hit up. Some people were saying, Joe, you should have been down here at Chicano Park this weekend. You should have been there. And look, I've been there before. I know a lot of friends and family down there. And it's probably the most perfect place to be, not just because of the weather, it's the whole atmosphere. Yeah. It's artistic, and you don't even have to have cars there. Everybody's got pride there and all that. You have to have that. That's part of our culture. I just can't be over there, way over there, out here and there at the same time. And I regret not going there this weekend, and I always hope for. How many times does Chicano Park happen per year?
Once a year.
Once a year, and that's it.
Chicano Park Day.
But locally on weekends, there's car clubs out there parking, having meetings or barbecues.
It's sporadic.
Sporadic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Car clubs do have my brother-in-law and my sister are in Viejitos.
Okay.
And they have their meetings there most of the time. So
I heard the Majestics have a house not too far from there.
Right next to the
big party house. They're there easy. They don't even have to move their cars over to the park. They're right there.
The big blue house right next to
reserve parking. Yeah. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. Majestic's pretty cool. I have friends in there. But it's if you didn't show up back in the days, you feel left out. Lowrider magazine. Lowrider magazine was here in LA. For the most part, you didn't have to go too far to get what you were looking for.
Right.
So and a lot of what you were looking for was exactly what you would want to put on your magazine.
I remember the car shows out that way, the outdoor parking lots. Got a windy one time, but I mean, even the convention center when a city was throwing the car shows there, man, that was state of the art car show in San Diego.
San Diego.
I don't know why for us it used to take us 6 hours to get to San Diego because some of our cars were breaking down. But I mean, just the whole atmosphere, to just go all over that place and then have your car inside a building like that and enjoy the weekend in San Diego, which is a hop skip. It's a couple hours from LA, and here we go. It's almost part of LA, so to speak.
Well,
beautiful.
I wouldn't drive my 67 up here because I was on 520s. And that was like excruciating if you driving your car for that long, sitting there going at 55 or 60 because you're over revving. So
I don't know if I might be a little older than you and have more experience, but I remember going to San Jose on 520s from here. And then as they went on the 520s, they would overlap and they would bite chunks out of your tires.
Yeah.
Or you'd wear them out quick. Well, we had to drive our cars to work.
Yeah.
We're going to take rims off and put on our stocks Monday through Friday. We just took them out there like that to work every day.
Well, when I started, 520s were 20 and $25 each. Seriously. That's right. The last set that I bought for $100 for the set, and they mounted them right there in National City.
Yep.
So,
gone are those prices.
Huh?
Everything gone are all the prices. A setup of hydraulics $150, $20 for 520s, true spokes for $320 when they first came out.
Yeah.
Kragers were $110.
Yeah.
But if you got Cal Chromes, they're probably about $98
Yeah.
for a set.
Rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything went expensive, but lowriding, to be into lowriding and that culture, it is very expensive
It,
today, especially today. Some of the things about the cultural aspects of the sceneries. What is San Diego to you? Of course, lowriders are involved. Lowriders are everywhere. It's part of the backdrop. What is some of the history going back? If we're going to say Chicano Park was 60 years, I know all about it. I've been there. For others that have not been there, I know a car came off of
yeah.
that overpass one
That's
time and
right.
landed. Thank God no one got hurt,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, through the whole atmosphere, the whole
It,
thing, because there's a Chicano Park that is out in El Paso. They
yes.
have their own Chicano Park.
Exactly. Yeah. It's. I seen pictures of it.
Yeah, they have their murals out
Yeah.
there and all. It's
Right.
also beautiful, but mm,
It. Well, you
not
got
not as much as the San Diego one.
it. It's San Diego. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chicano Park was the original. That's I
Right.
don't
Oh,
remember.
and they'll say it. It's
Yeah.
either Lincoln Park or they'll say, well, we call it Chicano Park too. It's beautiful too. It's not as big. Um, but everybody, just like in
Yeah.
San Diego, are proud
Yeah.
to be from that area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's their museum.
Yeah. Basically, they're a museum.
Tell us more about Chicano Park.
Chicano Park.
What history do you have there?
When we used to party there a lot.
Hmm.
That's where one of the times when a good friend of mine from Latin Lowriders named John Hansen, he's a longtime friend. We were out there partying. I ended up getting drunk. Have you heard of Nati's or Milpas restaurant?
No.
That was very, very iconic for many, many years. I think it's closed down now. Anyway,
There was another place called Felipe's or Felipe's down there too. That's well known in San Diego, out
Felipe's?
that way by the park. Felipe's.
No, it was
It's from way back in the 40s. It's like a deli.
oh, that I would I don't remember. I know Nati, or they call Natis because the owner was named Natis, but it
Okay.
was Milpas,
Okay.
and they only had like one. Their menu was rice, beans, and chorizo at that time, and that was better. And you would see lawyers,
Hmm.
cops line up, at lunchtime to eat there. But anyway, we would go over to Natis and sober up. So yeah, that's that. We would hang out at the park like late at night. There would be, after a meeting or just on Saturday, even on Sunday, show up and just hang out there for a while. Just it was a place to go. But back, like I said, back then, there was just us and Latin lowriders. So it was the community of lowriding was very small in terms of cars. When it exploded, it has exploded. The park is not used as much anymore for, like back then, to go and hang out. Um, but the community itself, um, I don't know. It has there's more shops, more like, for the culture shops, but I think uh,
There's like hundreds of car clubs out that way now. You and Rabbit made the trek down here. You guys carpooled all the way down here, and you have a story. Rabbit from Impalas came out. He's here sitting here inside the studio right now, but you and him both had a story that he didn't even know about.
right.
What was that all about?
Yeah, I met Rabbit through their organization,
Hmm.
uh, Lowrider Coalition,
Okay.
and my sister's all involved in that. So I got kind of drug into it, and I met him. So he invited me over to his house, sat down, have a couple beers, and talk. So yeah, we started talking about our experiences in TJ. So we just kind of shared. I saw what he has, what he's doing, for the kids,
Hmm.
and hydraulics, how he teaches, hydraulics. I just, donated an old pump for his um, cause. So we hit it off pretty good. He's a good man. I really love the dude. He's a strong brother, and um, I know what he is in Impalas. He's a perfect leader. So I admire that.
He's a perfect leader for all car clubs down that way.
Yeah.
What's the culture like in TJ? Do you go over there a lot?
No, I haven't been down there with all the
Yeah.
everything goes. I don't like
But
going.
lowriding's strong down there
Oh
too.
yeah, there's there in fact Del Mar
Hmm.
car show, and that was last year and this year too. There was beautiful 62 Impala. I mean detail, beautifully done rear end. The quality of the what do you call it, reinforcement, but there was no scratches on it after the chrome. It was beautiful. It was everything on it was beautiful.
What are the cruising scenes like in San Diego? I mean, there's something to do every weekend if you've got a lowrider.
That's
There's lots of different car
yeah.
shows by the bay,
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Can you name some of those events?
The ones by the bay is actually, and for
That
me,
place gets jam packed, huh? You can't
that's my
even go
favorite.
between cars, I've heard.
That's my favorite because if you mentioned San Diego being beautiful and everything,
Yeah.
imagine that setting where you got cars in a park setting, along the bay. You can see the bridge, you can see Coronado, the backdrop of beautiful. When the cars are parked up on the mounts and stuff, it's beautiful. I mean that is to me the my favorite car show, lowrider car show.
Every weekend, where are the cruising spots?
A lot of the guys that they go to J Street in Chula Vista.
Hmm.
That gets packed. I mean, I'm talking about packed. They have to close it off most of the time. So people cruise down there from National City into J Street, and then later on, they'll go from J Street back to Highland. So that's almost every weekend.
I have a buddy of mine, Alex Emmett Boys. He's the one that gave me a call over the weekend and just said, "Man, did you go to Chicano Park?" I go, "No." And I know he's from San Diego. He was right there. He lived like a block away from the park.
Hmm.
And he started telling me his history. And he goes, "You know what, man?" And that's who he is today. He can never forget. Even the convention center, when we went down there, and that was his influence. I got to get in that club, man, and all that. But he was telling me about Philippe's is a deli that's been there since the 40s.
You tell you that Felipe's, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to, well, Felipe's, he goes, "Well, is there a chain?" I thought it was the one over here by Alvera Street in Dodger Stadium. And we went back and forth, and it was pretty cool. But he mentioned the times, the innocent times of low riding,
Yeah.
because it's different now, but it's innocent now because there's families and the kids and the wives are involved now, right? But he was telling me that back then you could get into a car show in San Diego, a lowrider car show, by building a model car. And if you were there, you bring your model car to the front door
Hmm.
and show it there for the show.
Yep.
They let you in the show
Back then,
free.
yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
man, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
to do things like that. You don't even hear of anything like that today,
No.
today's youth and all that. Look
It-
what it did to those guys. I mean, they were ruined from a model car entry into a car show for free.
right.
And look where they're at now. And
Yeah.
now they're ruining other people.
Yeah. It's like anything else, has grown to the point where you can't get in unless you already, got your entry form a month, 2 months, or at least a month, or or 2 months before. Um, it's just organized. It's a lot more organized, and it's grown so much.
Does
The-
the coalition help a lot?
yeah, I mean the coalition.
Everybody gets together and has a voice, and
Yeah, the
everything's
coalition.
scheduled and planned.
Well, that's what the coalition is supposed to do, and you gotta have cooperation. That's
Mhm.
the thing. So some do, some don't, but for the most part, there's no overlap. I think it's kind of a bad thing if they're if you have two shows at the same time, because it cuts down on the entry, for one and the other. A lot of them, they're fundraisers. So when you cut the entry of one because of whatever, you cut the funding. So, but low riding, the quality that I saw this weekend on the videos, because I have people taking video, It is increasing. It is growing in San Diego. It's amazing.
Every day there's a
Yeah.
car that takes over, and that's the car to go
Yeah.
against, or it's got plenty of ideas for everybody, and that's how we grow. Every day a new car comes out and plants the seed, and then we grow from that, and that's the
Yeah.
fun part about this
Yeah.
culture.
In one of your podcasts I listened to you, you talk about the future of low riding and what that can look like. Um, and that's very hard to foresee or describe because it's either gonna if it's gonna grow in terms of um, something new or new, customizing. There's not too many people that are willing to cut up their Impalas or whatever that is. There was this '57 Chevy at the Arizona car show
Mhm.
that we just went to, and I seen that car on YouTube. Or it's a convertible. It's a khaki color brown. I don't know if you've seen it. So a big heavy set dude that looks like a white dude that owns it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You seen it?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful car.
Oh yeah.
That's a beautiful car.
Talking about setting the standards. I'm
Exactly.
more worried. You can't predict the future. Who knows where low riding is going to go tomorrow? I look at the direction we're going and who's pointing to that direction, and I just think that we're all responsible, and we put enough into low riding that that direction, especially the car builders, should be the ones that are leading that caravan. Not There's not all judges and not all promoters is what I threw out there. There's a lot of good promoters and there's a lot of good judges. People are going to take me wrong sometimes. I think that there's some out there that stepped outside of our box, so to speak, or out of our territory, and are guiding us for the wrong reasons. Either it's ego or it's money or it's ego again, is all I'm saying. I'm saying just a builder beware is all I said. And people are going to take it this way or they're going to take it that way. But my whole thing is I'm going to voice my opinion because I've been there on all sides, in and out. And all I was just trying to say is we got to keep this thing growing. That's why that foundation started with the American Lowrider Cultural Foundation, is because if we're going to keep on going, we're a dying breed. We're getting older. Most of us are now, right? We're in the fourth quarter. A lot of us are. Um, it's time to, like in wrestling, reach out and tag someone to come in,
Yeah.
hand them the torch. And what is that? That's the next younger generation.
Yeah.
And how you get them involved is all I'm trying to say. But you don't need anybody saying like the devil over here, come this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the way you got to go. And for what look at the devil. He's dressed up in red. He's got horns. Okay. I mean, is he dressed like you? I mean, we're real lowriders. I mean, it's a struggle out there to
Yeah.
build any old car. That was I was just trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to go hands on with our youth. And everybody's got to see that, man. We got to get them more involved so they can invest. And once they invest, and then they're going to believe and they're going to respect it. Down the line, they will be respected and they'll be in our position down the line. They can figure it out how it's going to go from here. That's it.
If they grab the baton, they're gonna run with it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Once you're in it, look at you, like hot rods. Look how you changed and look where you're at today. Just one glimpse of a bunch of cars on Whittier Boulevard slammed to the floor. There you are, welding, steel plates underneath your gas tank. You have a 67 fastback, 67. Jesus. And there's about 4 of those body styles, right? The Caprice,
Yeah.
the custom,
Custom.
the convertible, and that fastback. Man, there's so much you can do to those cars. They are the baddest, and they're long too. In my books, man, that's the baddest. That's the baddest of all Chevrolets.
Yeah. You know, when you look at Foos, the imposter, that 65 that he did, I don't know if you've ever seen.
I know all about that guy, and I've always teased him. I teased him with his last build at Seymour, where I told him, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, I got to come on the show, right, Chip Foos? I got to come on there, or your next show, Joe. I'm going to bring this car out." And I told him, "I know you can't bring it." And then he goes, "Why?" I go, "Because it's got the wrong wheels on." He just laughed about it. But that 65 Chevy wasn't liked by his peers to give out the Riddler.
Yeah.
Because he sectioned that car and everything. But if you change the wheels on half of the cars he built,
Yeah.
those are the baddest lowriders ever.
There you go. There you go.
That's what I look at my whole life.
Yep.
That's why they're there and we're still here. We got to go there.
Joe, that's exactly.
That's
You
what
just
it's
said
about.
what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Because that's what if you're gonna not necessarily, because the culture is so heavy in low riding that to accept that, you know what that would be like. I mean, you've done it. Every car that you have has customizing.
I do it because I've seen other people what they do and their paint, their upholstery, like that new car you just mentioned that just popped out. That keeps me going. That's our lifeline.
Yeah.
When you go back into the culture of San Diego and all your history coming up this way, Lincoln Heights, I can go on from there with Lincoln Heights. I know it. From everything you saw back then to what you see today, and you look at everything that influenced you, now you've influenced others. What would be your advice to give to everybody out there in the low riding world today? Because you're into customizing.
Yeah. The future of customizing, to me, the future of customizing, if it's going to survive, we got to bring them up. We got to bring up the young people. We got to be able to make a way, for that to happen by either by, I'm getting involved with Rabbit and the coalition. I'm designing a bicycle with hydraulics. It's got two pescos. They're little miniature pescos.
Yeah.
I can't find any other, but I have two of them. And the reason for that is I think I'm not going to ride it's going to be electric anyway. But it's to show the kids, this is what you can do. This is hydraulics. Imagine, the rear end of this bike, just like a car with hydraulics. You know, once from here, now you move it to a car. So that intrigues, that gets something, going within them to go after, getting into cars, into low riding.
Today's generation, well, you want to talk about why the magazine went away. It went away a long time ago, even before we closed up shop because of the cell phone. You could get videos, pictures, the internet, everything. It just blown up. And that's why low riding is bigger than ever. It's not so much the same. Yes, women and kids are involved in it. But when you want to look at the future back then, you can always say, hey, I went down Whittier Boulevard one day. I saw the Imperials. I'm going to say I was in Monterey Park going up to my mom and dad's house just out of school, elementary school, come up the hill. There's a lime green 64. Me and my brother, we just looked at each other and we had ideas on our model cars. So I was influenced that way and other things too. And that's what got me involved. Right. Today's youth, there's a lot more distractions than what we had back then. Right. Life was a lot more simpler. Yeah. So we got to try harder and get the youth more involved. If it means taking away their phones, so to speak, we have to. Yeah. But low riding is about traditions. Exactly. And the family's involved now. Right. If the wives and mothers haven't always been involved, now they're driving cars. So hopefully that's going to extend our future of low riding. Yeah. Yeah. What shout outs do you have before we come to a close of the show? Any shout outs, anybody out there? God bless them. For anybody you want to mention? To me, Peabody is one of my mentors from way back, from Land Lowriders. John Hansen, all the others are pretty much gone. There's several, I can't remember their names. There's many. Steve Wade, you mentioned. Yep. Yeah. He's a good friend. Steve Wade, we go way back from when we moved into National City. He started hanging around. My brothers and I were already doing cars, and he became a friend. Shout out to him. Great. Yeah. So in Brown Image, shout out to Brown Image. They're making a comeback. One of the older car clubs from way back, right? Brown Image was the second lowrider car club in San Diego. That goes way back. You live in that way. If you had a travel agency right now, you would welcome everybody in the lowriding world, all the way back to Oklahoma if you want. Yeah. Even Drastic Car Club in New York. Mm-hmm. Everybody comes out to LA. If they're going to make the long trek, they're going to come out to LA to see what's going on. They have no idea. It's just as beautiful in San Diego. How would you welcome them? I would welcome them just like because San Diego, like you said, is beautiful. So
the beauty of San Diego would, if that doesn't welcome them, we as a community of lowriders, we would have to open our arms right, along with the like what you're doing, and invite everybody in. Everybody's welcome.
Best weather in the whole world.
You keep saying that.
There's naval ships out that way. There's Chicano Park, Pacific Beach. Oh my God. The border is right there. You want to go to TJ and get that atmosphere in. I know it's a little bit different down there, but beyond everything, there are lowriders, and that's part of San Diego's scenery. It is another world. I have a special guest here that's inviting you to explore that world. Go down there. It's
Yeah.
only a couple hours south of LA. And it's more than just beautiful. Be a part of it. You're more than welcome. Like our friend Raul's saying here, you have a lot of history and you got a long ways to go yet, especially if you want to get that world out there to bring out torches and start cutting tops, and you're going to get into suicide doors. That's what lowriding is always going to be about.
Exactly.
Cutting bumpers, like we said. I appreciate you coming on the show, Raul.
Joe, I appreciate you having me.
More than welcome. We'll get you back here again. I know you got a whole lot more to say, but for everybody out there, it was like a travel agency. We visited a little bit of the culture. We got into some customization, early car clubs before Chicano Park was even started, before all the poles, the pillars, the trestles, the whole freeway, what it was. And just this weekend, what it's like. It's not territorial.
No.
You're beautiful people, like all lowriders. You belong there. It's a mirror of our image. Raul, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Joe.
Hey, everybody, we just cruised in and out of another episode of the Wired Down Show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you ever want to reach out positively, you can always go to joeray@wireddown.com. Hey, thanks for being with us. Enjoy the upcoming weekend.